specifically February 23rd, 1871. And you will see that Congress at that time passed an act to incorporate the parts of the District of Columbia and that area known as Georgetown. That became a separate jurisdiction as a corporation, and from there, the rest that Kelby described unfolded. Secondly, in 1868, just prior to that, the 14th Amendment was passed. And ostensibly, the 14th Amendment was passed in order to establish a basis of status for the freed slaves, who were not going to be allowed to be sovereign. They could not come in at an equal level to the sovereign men of the free states. So they had to have a status. They had to have a basis of citizenship. The 14th Amendment provided that. But a very interesting thing was added in the 14th Amendment. If you go and you read the 14th Amendment, you will see a line or a couple of lines that, I don't remember the exact wording, but something to the effect of no person has the right to challenge the validity of the national debt. So what you see there is a combining of two things: a lesser status from a sovereign status to a U.S. person citizenship status, combined with the prohibition of challenging the debt. And what then transpired with those two very specific things, the incorporation and the citizen status of the 14th Amendment citizen, and the inviolability of the debt, was that in the next 140 years, everything would be turned inside out, and the people would be systematically marched through a process where everything would be contracted to that federal entity, and everything would be pledged as collateral to that debt. And the goal was, and people might say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, I'm a conspiracy factualist. These are all facts. You can read them and study, and like Kelby said, 2 years ago he didn't even know this, but he got introduced to it. He did his research. He spent several months, 4 or 5 months, satisfying himself that this is real. Anybody can do it because it's all part of the public record. So the long and the short of it is, it was designed by a systematic unfolding through history of the last 150 years to arrive to the point that we've been living through in the last 10 years, where that debt, which can never be challenged by a U.S. person, which is basically you attached to a subdivision of that master corporation, that no person can ever challenge that debt. And as you can see right now, that debt is growing exponentially. So it cannot be paid. It can never be paid. It is designed to create a system and a status for all the people of literally perpetual, eternal debt enslavement, where nothing is owned by anyone but the state, and everyone is a servant that must obey the state and must obey all of the rules, which are nothing but corporate bylaws. Everything you call a law is really only a code, an ordinance, a statute. They all are just simply rules of the corporation. It's just like you're an employee of IBM. You have to follow their rules. It's the same thing. So you are all constituted and characterized and acted upon as employees of the federal entity, which is in perpetual debt that you cannot challenge. The other place that you can satisfy yourself that this is a fact, aside from doing the search for Act of February 23rd, 1871, is do for those of you not familiar, all of the United States, which is a federal corporation, all of the statutes and codes are contained in something called the United States Code. There are 50 volumes, and these were designed and structured in the 1870s, and they've been filled out for the last 140 years. And if you want to find anything in the U.S. code, you just simply write the number of one of those 50 volumes. Then you write the letters USC, which stands for United States Code, and then you write the section you're looking for. So, for example, Title 26 is known as the IRS code. So if you wrote 26 USC 7001, you would find a specific code section of the IRS code. Title 28 is the judiciary. So if you write 28 USC 3002, you will go within the judiciary title, you will go to a specific code section that has definitions. And in the legal system, words being defined is everything. So a major example of that is the word person. If you search for person in the U.S. code, you will find that it's defined as a corporation. So if you're walking around saying, I'm a U.S. person, you have just defined yourself as a corporation, and you fall under all of the things that I've just described. So if you go to 28 USC 3002, you will find about 15 definitions. And you go down to subsection 15, and it says the United States is a federal corporation. Period. End of story. And it is a corporation that is acting as a de facto government, as Kelby described, but it is not based on law, and it's not based on the land. So all we really needed to do, which we have fulfilled this last year, as Kelby described with the events that he talked about, was come together as a complete jural body in all 50 republics, make our claim, do the proper procedure, and move back onto the land, which we now are, and we cannot be moved back out. And so every individual in North America can choose to make the declaration of your sovereign rights and stand with us in the republic and on the land.
Wow, thank you, Ken. Now you all understand why I get intimidated when I go second to Ken's speech. He's an extremely bright guy who's had a lifetime of study in this, and he's opened my eyes personally to a lot of things, and I consider him a very, very dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is open up the question queue. I'm going to tell you, if you want to ask a question, you're going to need to go to the prayer line at 712-432-0075, and the participant code is 359789. Again, 712-432-0075. The participant code is 359789. What I'm going to do is open up the questions queue in just a minute so we can have a fair opportunity for those people leaving that call to come over to the other call to ask their question. Mind you, we don't have a whole lot of time left. I know we had some interruptions, so we might go to like 8 or 8:15 tonight to get some of the questions answered. Ken, I know that you're a detailed guy. If you could, please, as quickly as we can, get their questions answered so that we can go to the next question. And I do it too, so let's just try to keep our answers as short as we can and concise. As well as the people listening, when you ask your question, please make it knowing that people are on this call to hear a question that's relating to a new republic. If there's people out there that are upset and they don't want to, and they want to put it out there, just know this: a lot of new people are listening, and we'll hear your question, we'll hear your statement, whatever, and we'll try to get it answered as well. So on that note, I'm going to open up the Q&A right now. To ask a question, you're going to press star 6 on your phone right now and press the number 1. Press star 6 and the number 1, and you'll come into the queue. We're going to go with area code 410. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Yes, this is Ken Crane of Baltimore, Maryland, and my question
Mr.
is...
Crane, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing great. Had a good New Year, and my question is when we have our own currency, are we going to we're going to refer to where it says the Congress shall authorize the coinage of money? I think that was in 1787 when the original Constitution for the United States was written, and it was the gold standard.
Right.
And we were on the gold standard until Franklin Roosevelt took us off in 1933, which was a big mistake.
Yep.
And I think
that's because there was no more gold left. The United States had the Federal Reserve had sucked out all the gold of the U.S. corporation from the Treasury from 1913 to 1933 in interest payments. It's called the biggest scam in history. But go ahead, Mr. Crane.
Yeah, it was the biggest scam, and so. My question is, can we take back the gold standard? Is there enough gold to mine in the, mines like Virginia and other mining areas of our republic?
We have all the gold we need. We already contracted. That's a great question. Let me address it. The Chinese basically came and had a 100-year agreement with the people of the Federal Reserve back in 1910. They gave basically a certificate of safekeeping to the Federal Reserve, and so the Federal Reserve would then be able to say they were gold, working basically off that gold-backed currency. The point is that same contract, which came up in 2010, we now have. So we are literally backed by a document and enough gold to do whatever we need to do as a republic.
That's great because, because Federal Reserve knows it's just paper money. It's a trick without a treat. It will deceive you. It will lead you down to tyranny, and that's what Carl Klang said in one of his songs in 1993 when he wrote a song called "Paper Money." You may have heard it when you heard Bill Cooper's podcast on the Hour of the Time.
The fiat money, known as the Federal Reserve note, is about to change, and I think there's things that are going to happen. For the new people listening, we've talked about it before. You can go to newmoney.gov, and you can look at the $100 bill. It's a gold-backed $100 bill. The biggest indicator that it's a gold-backed $100 bill is they moved the verb or the words, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." They moved it from the debt side, the Federal Reserve seal side of the bill. They moved that over to the asset side, the Treasury side, indicating that note is Treasury backed. So I don't know what they're thinking they're going to do in bringing back the gold standard, but you got to reduce the value of the dollar. You got to have gold, and in my opinion, it's another scam trying to get you to convert your gold for an unreal dollar that will eventually crash. So just be careful in all that. But I think they're already having plans on the de facto side to convert back to a gold standard.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Crane. We're going to bring on the next caller on 818 area code. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Yes, hello. I'm going to try and run through these real quickly. I have 3 questions, but I'm going to make them quick. First of all, it bothers me a little bit that you had to go and present this to the UN at The Hague. Is there a reason why you had to get approval from an international one world body?
Yeah, that's a big discrepancy, I think, as to what I said. We gave notice. We don't need approval.
Oh.
We gave notice. That's all we've done. And like I said, we're going to give notice to every agency in the country.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I want to know if all 50 republics have now been established and instituted. A few weeks ago, you were up to 46. Do you have all 50 now?
No, we do not. We are working diligently. We had a team where we were on a 3-hour conference call today in the morning, and I was on another hour-and-a-half conference call with the Northeast tonight before this phone call. We're bringing together the balance of the republics very quickly. It'll probably be done within about a week.
Good news. Okay, the last thing, on a little bit of a sour note, but I don't believe everything I hear, but I am hearing reports from people that believe that the de facto government, the corporation, is already rounding people up namely immigrants. Here in Southern California, especially LA,